Mina Kim, thank you for being on Crossroads. Good to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
I, of course, spoken to your event, Build-Up Korea, in Korea recently. And since then, things have gotten pretty interesting in Korea, it seems. And a lot of Americans trying to make sense of it. Martial law was declared by your president. They're trying to remove him from office now. You have a good insight into what's really going on. I want to talk to you about it. So, okay, so for Americans, what led up to the martial law? Because we have no idea. We only know what happened on the surface. What happened?
Right. So basically, Americans wouldn't believe that if Korean Democrats are leaning towards pro-North Korea and pro-China, they wouldn't believe it, because even the American Democrats are not super pro-China. But in Korea, most of the Democrat politicians in Korea are tied to either North Korea or Chinese Communist Party government. So that's pretty much what's under the ground that have caused the martial law. And our president has known about that since he became the president, and then he wanted to expose it. But since our government right now is the opposition party is the majority party, he couldn't do much. So he had to declare the martial law to drive out all the anti-state forces. Well,
you know, when I was doing some reporting in Korea, I was looking into Chinese subversion, and I was shocked, actually, that the political debate in South Korea is really like, do they want to align with China and North Korea, or do they want to align with the United States?
Exactly.
And that's one of the biggest political issues there, from what I understood. Is this?
That's very true.
I came in from outside, so that's what I gathered. But is that really what it is?
That is very true, 100% true. And the media doesn't talk about it, because our mainstream media is also very left-leaning. And you guys have like Fox News. We don't have any of those. And all the media, 100%, are kind of leaning left. And they wouldn't explain anything about that. And that's a very bad news.
Okay, so your president, he's on the party that wants to make the alliance with the United States.
That's correct.
He declares martial law. When we're watching from the outside, it looked like he was preventing Congress from going and voting to end martial law. It didn't look like he accomplished anything, but I also heard that he did raid one office during that time. What actually happened? Because we're trying to discern what was accomplished. Was anything accomplished?
Right.
What happened?
So what I believe is the martial law itself wasn't super prepared, because he had a lot of things going on in his cabinet, and the Democrats were trying to impeach all of his cabinet members because they're the majority party, that means they can fast track all the bills and all the impeachment decisions by themselves. So that's why our president decided to declare the martial law, to mainly actually drive into the National Election Committee, which was a surprise for everybody, because you would normally send the troops to the National Assembly and block all the National Assembly members to get into the Assembly and vote to end the martial law, because the majority party is the opposition party, which is the Democratic Party. They would all, of course, vote to end the martial law. And that could be possible. But the reason why he went to the National Election Committee was because it's an independent-run organization in Korea, and even the president can't get an access to National Election Committee data and servers and everything. So he had to declare the martial law and force it.
Okay, explain. Okay, I need to step back.
Right.
He had the National Election Committee raided when he declared martial law. Is that what happened?
Yes, that's correct. He sent about 300 troops there.
Wow.
Secretly. And it was found out later that everybody found out later about it. Since 2020, we had election fraud in 2020 April for our general election, and it's because of all the voting machines, and all the data came out to be very strange. So that's been going on for about 4 years, and now finally he tried to expose that as well through the martial law.
Yeah, I remember I reported on some of the reporting that was coming out on some of these strange things they found with their elections, and I know the investigations have been ongoing. But it's interesting now that the president, when he declared martial law, that's what he went for.
Yes,
wow, that's
correct.
A big deal.
And the surprising thing was that the server that he found had a password, which was 12345.
Oh wow, very secure.
Which is very secure, right?
Joking, very insecure, but that's interesting.
So allegedly, North Korean spies might have hacked into the servers as well as the Chinese Communist Party goes.
Well, and that's important, because after martial law was declared and rapidly ended, the president came out in Korea and actually gave a statement, and he did mention that, actually. He did mention they found this server, and the password was 12345, and he noted it was very insecure.
Yes.
And this was before the recent attempts to now impeach him.
Right, exactly.
But what did he actually say was his reason for declaring it when he gave these statements? What was his actual statement?
So he said his main reason for doing that was to drive out all the anti-state forces in Korean government. It's just like in America. It's similar but different, you know? Like I told you, in Korean government, we have a lot of pro-North Korean funded maybe or spies politicians, and he was trying to expose them out. And he knew that the martial law wouldn't last long, but he still did it because he wanted to maybe expose all the bad ones. And we did have a lot of like establishment conservative politicians who would also fall into the Democratic agenda with them. So those were the ones who voted to impeach our president for the second round of voting.
Well, you know, there was something really interesting that came out because you're saying that there's a lot of people in Korea who are suspected of being tied to China, you know, mainland China, the Chinese Communist Party, and North Korea.
Yes.
President Yoon, again, the president of South Korea, actually said this in his statement. And one thing he said in particular was that there were instances of Chinese spies going into South Korea, committing very open, you know, acts of foreign espionage.
Oh my
and
gosh,
he said that they couldn't prosecute it in Korea.
No.
He said the police couldn't do anything about Chinese spies because Korean law forbids them to go after Chinese spies.
That's crazy.
And you know what's crazy is when I was in Korea, I was told this by some of my own sources, and it's shocking.
It's shocking.
How can you? Why is it? Why is it that South Korea, they can go after? I mean, again, you're facing the problem of North Korea, but they can't do anything about Chinese spies operating in their own borders? How is this even possible?
I can explain that by saying how different Korean government politics system is. So in America, I believe not everyone, but most of the people here are driven by the ideologies and values that they believe. But in Korea, it's more about like politicians getting successful in their jobs and their careers. And that's all they care about. And that's why sometimes they have to compromise themselves with Chinese spies or North Korean spies. So that's probably the main reason why there are a lot of compromised politicians in Korean government. And we've always known that, but President Yoon was probably the first one in the recent history that kind of like tried to directly expose this kind of issues because he's been going through some tough times as well.
Yeah. Well, and this is another important thing from what I've been understanding with the whole situation. And you mentioned a bit of it, is that a lot of the world, they only saw half the picture.
That's true.
A lot of the world, they saw President Yoon declare martial law. They saw the military there and the scuffle with the politicians, and it was shocking. You know, it was really shocking. The other side of it, though, that is not being shown to the world is what your president was also saying. His allegation is that he says they're trying to prevent his investigations by using their power in government to impeach the people who are investigating them.
Exactly. That's accurate. And Democrats were trying to defund all the budgets that was set to prosecute their candidate who's a criminal. So that was one of the triggers that, you know, caused President Yoon to declare the martial law as well.
But this is important because essentially the allegation is the current incumbent president is saying that the other side is trying to overturn his government.
Exactly.
But the argument most of the world is hearing is that he's trying to overturn theirs, right?
Exactly.
And
That's right.
And so both are accusing the other, but people are only hearing one half of it, it seems.
Yes, it's because it's just like American media. When we hear the U.S. news from Korea, we hear the same half side of the news from America. I think it's the same thing what's happening in Korea right now. It parallels what happened in America, especially in 2020 and 2021. And I would say whatever you are hearing from the American news about Korea is very left-leaning and it's very biased. So you should definitely try to look into a different side and look at it as in a worldview of the conservative point of view.
Well, you know, it's stuff most people here have no way of knowing because the only sources are just one side of the picture, it seems.
Exactly, which is very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about one other thing, which is kind of what's happening right now as we speak. The president is risking getting pushed out. He's being impeached. They voted to impeach him.
Exactly.
But from what I understand, there's a court process now that basically in the courts.
Yes.
You mentioned that he had some of the election system stuff taken. Is there an actual criminal investigation? Is this actually looking into the whole picture of the evidence, or is it just looking into him? What is happening with the current investigation?
So currently, we can't see the full picture because we don't know what President Yoon actually has and not have. So we'll have to wait until the hearing, the court hearing, which he will have in a few weeks at a constitutional court. That's the last phase, last procedure before he gets impeached or not get impeached. The decision will be made by the 6 judges of Korea.
Wow. And so I guess now Donald Trump is coming into office. I assume Korea is going to be a big focus for him.
Yes.
Where do you see things going? I mean, if President Yoon gets impeached, what happens? If he doesn't, what happens? What is the possible outcome here?
So first of all, President Yoon wanted to broadcast the court hearing, but the court is actually denying, rejecting that.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. And hopefully he reveals more information that people don't know yet. And that's what conservative Koreans hope for. So if he does get impeached, it means that we're going to go through the same thing the U.S. had gone through since 2020, 2021, from there then to 2024, and we're gonna have to wake a lot of people up, which will actually definitely motivate Korean people to voice out more. Because as you know, Koreans are usually very shy, and they're not used to speaking up because they're used to this culture where it's a Confucius culture where you have to respect elders, which means you can't really speak out for them, against them. So that's why they obey what government says. They try to follow whatever the American government says or media says, and that's why the whole thing happens. So.
I see. Well, I guess just last question. If you're to tell the American people about what's really going on in Korea, sum it up. Why should Americans care about it? What's really going on?
So Americans should care about this definitely because Korea is one of the very good friends in Asia. And Korea is the nation where we can go fight against the whole Chinese regime that's coming into the world, trying to infiltrate into all the Asia. So we have to save Korea. And in order for us to do that, we need the help of American people and American government to support what's happening right now in our current government. Our current government is a conservative government. Conservative president is being impeached right now. But if we have the support of the American people and enough support from the American government for our current president, for his attempt or his belief in, being good friends with America rather than being friends with China. And then if the opposition party becomes the ruling party in Korea, then they will try to give our country to China or to North Korea. And you can't let that happen as Americans because you need more allies in Asia right now. And we're in this fight with you guys and we're ready to, fight, like how President Trump did.
Well, Mina Kim, thank you so much and a real pleasure having you on. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.